Hello, Lynn.
Hi, how are you?
I'm much better now.
Good. It's good to see you. Do
Good to
you,
see
you know what? You mentioned something to me earlier when we were talking about how to get closed captioning on this. Um, and I tried to do it, and I think that maybe I do need to update the software first. So your intuition was right. So we'll try.
I just updated it today
Okay.
and saw all of the different changes.
Okay, that's so good. Very exciting.
Yeah.
We'll try it in our staff meeting.
I came home and I cooked my dinner and now I feel better.
Good.
I've been eating carry out for the last week.
Supporting local businesses.
Yeah, but it's not good for my health.
I hear you.
And as I was telling my nephew, I was eating crappy crap.
Okay.
So I don't want to eat crappy crap.
Good for you.
So I came home and made a burrito bowl.
Ooh, you made it yourself?
Yeah.
So it was delicious.
Mm-hmm.
So I had one of those delicious cookies that I usually have in the office.
That was your dinner?
Like for old
Hi,
times.
Tom.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, guys.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
You're looking awfully debonair there.
Well, I thought I should come to the meeting like it's really a meeting.
Ooh, so you can see my daughter's garden behind me.
How's she doing?
She's doing great.
She's liking being at home with you?
She's a very smart girl, so she'll say that.
So she doesn't say.
But she's also 19, so
Yeah.
I don't believe her. I think it's hard, but she's being good.
Well, I think it's hard too.
Yeah.
Well, we're managing. How about you?
Good, but you know what? I just somehow lost my pen. There it is. Okay.
You're asking me?
Yeah.
I've been good at home.
Mm.
It's just all of the other things that are happening in life while being at home. You don't have other things to get you away from the stuff that, you avoid at home. So you have to deal with it.
I don't know if this is what you mean, but even though we're sequestered here, nothing stops. Everything else, it continues to go on.
Mm-hmm.
Like the dishwasher. A little part broke in the dishwasher. I can't fix it because I can't call, Dick Van Dyke, because they're closed.
I got a buddy, Tom, that fixes stuff like that. If you want a handyman.
I had, like, on virtually the first day of this, I had a toothache, allergies, and I needed my eyes examined all in the same day. And then I realized this stuff could actually wait, and the toothache even is waiting. So got lucky.
So anyhow, I don't know if that's what you meant, but yeah, life keeps on going. And
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Lane.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi, Elaine.
Hi, everybody.
Is Mark trying to get in here without an audio? Hi, Joe.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Good, good.
It doesn't sound great.
No, it's this lack of warmth outside, the sunshine is getting to me.
Yeah, that doesn't help either, does it?
No, it's not helping at all.
I don't know, Joe and I might have the same problem. Someone in my family was from Africa, and I never got over it. My genes never got adjusted to this.
My genes can never adjust to
Can't
this.
get adjusted.
No. So my kids want to go skiing, and I say, you know what? I'll stay back and you guys ski.
Elaine, you got enough books there?
This is just this room. Michael's study is at the other end of the house with more.
Yeah. Yeah. You have a bookstore.
Somebody said, if somebody says to you, well, have you read them all? You're supposed to say, some of them twice.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, you have no problem with the library being closed, that's for sure.
No, that's right.
Nope.
Oh, I've got shelves of unread books here, but I have
No.
read some of them twice.
We just have to guess which ones you haven't read.
Elaine, remember, you're still working. You're not retired. Elaine,
What?
you're not retired, are you?
Oh, you can't retire if you're a writer. These books right here are my research for the book that's coming out in January, so I don't get to retire.
Okay.
The retirement is for wimps.
Well, I'll take it. Hi, Susan.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, John.
Hey, Joe, how are you doing?
Doing
Oh,
well.
hi, John.
Hey, John boy. Good night, John boy.
I hope everyone's staying healthy out there.
Yes, we are. At least I am.
It's been pretty slow at the clinic, which is always a good thing.
It is. Are you at the main? Where are you, John? Where is?
I'm over at the Windsor clinic right now. That's where I normally am. It's the respiratory clinic for sick kids who have fevers and coughs, but the whole clinic has changed to being pretty much healthy in the morning, and then they'll see sick patients in the afternoon. For the adult side, this week the pediatric has kept it still being the sick clinic, and then on Monday we're going to start what everyone else is doing. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's still like there was like maybe like 4 patients today in the whole clinic for the sick patient for pediatrics. So yeah, there's like nobody.
Well, good.
Mhm.
Last Tuesday, my daughter sliced her finger open, and so we got in and out of OSF and record speed, 6 stitches, and
Doing a lot of telemedicine now. Yeah.
How's that going?
It's not bad. It's good if people are stable. It's hard if you need to make significant changes and they need to come into the clinic. So, you know, that's the only issue. Because a lot of people don't have video capabilities, so a lot of it's just, you know, audio. So, you know,
that is tough.
Yeah, so you can do most things over the phone, but there's sometimes when they need to come in so we can take a look and see what's really going on. Plus the teenagers, like, you want to talk to them one-on-one to make sure that we're not missing something that they don't want to tell in front of the parent, you know?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I can't do it like this because I can't hear. So I have to have everything repeated twice or 3 times, or just forget it, one or the other. Hi, Julia.
Hi. Hello. Oh, hi, everybody.
I wanted to mention, I think you have enough people to start the meeting, but I wanted to mention that there are a few people listed who we can't really tell who they are. There's one who shows up as QB. There's another one that shows up as Samsung SMG950U. And then there's another one who shows up as a phone caller. So that may be two, and that's an 840-0859 number. And so anyway, if those folks, if everyone can sign in to the chat, if you're not a board member, or a staff person, that's very helpful to us. That'll be part of the record for the meeting. I also want to tell you that in the olden days, we used to offer the board members a sandwich for their voluntary service in, on Wednesday evenings. And this meeting could, is one which could go quite long and you might need a sandwich. My gift to you tonight is this blue screen. That's exactly the Brady Bunch color. If you need it for your Zoom meetings.
Okay.
I
So
thought you were gonna say you're gonna have a sandwich delivered to us or something.
I know that's what I thought you were
Sorry.
alluding to.
No,
I'd actually prefer Jane's background.
Yes.
well, you have it if you want it.
Okay. So, since we're all here, I mean, it seems that my video, can you see me?
No.
Oh,
No.
I mean, I can't seem to get my video working. I keep trying to get a video and it keeps telling me, fail to start video camera. Please select another video camera setting. So I do not know what that means, but I had several video meetings with my students today, but I can't seem to see you guys. I can see all of you, but you can't see me. I'm here.
Joe, when was the last time you updated your Zoom platform?
I used Zoom on Sunday and I had video, but it was on my phone.
Okay, so it's probably needing to be updated.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And so after the meeting is
Yeah.
over, if it doesn't default to it,
Okay.
there's a new Zoom update
Okay.
that's critical.
Okay.
where
Yeah,
do you go
because
for that?
Huh?
Where do you go to upgrade? Because I've never.
If you just go on the home page,
For Zoom.
and then it will just tell you and give you instructions.
Okay.
Okay.
There should be like some instructions saying that there's some critical updates and bug fixes. And so
Okay.
those, making sure that you keep all of that up to date.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
helpful.
Okay. I will do it after the meeting. So let's go. Let's call to order. So
Stephanie.
roll call.
Stephanie, you are frozen for us.
She is, yeah.
Can you hear
Stephanie,
us?
can you hear us? I mean, or do you need to update your own your Zoom too?
I'll do the roll call and hopefully we can get Stephanie back.
Yeah, because I saw her a moment ago.
Okay, so Tom Moore,
Yeah.
Elaine Palencia,
Here.
Susan Fowler,
Here.
John Paul Joachim,
Here.
Jane Sprandel,
Here.
Kathleen Worth Couch. And I think she was having problems with Zoom again. And Joe Omosagie
Yeah.
and Kyle Patterson. Okay.
Okay.
You have a quorum.
Lynn, did you wish me to say I'm here?
Oh my gosh, I thought I got you. Okay, Julian
I thought you were
Rappaport.
going to get away with a short meeting. I wouldn't
I'm
say anything.
sorry. I saw you. I thought I called your name. Julian Rappaport.
So
Are you
Julian, come on, man. We wouldn't say something like that about
I'm
you.
sorry.
The best for last.
Okay, let's go ahead and is there any public participation today before we get an input, before we go ahead?
Joe, I do not see any hands raised in the
Okay.
chat box.
Okay, then we'll move on. So motion to approve agenda.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I don't have any comments today. Let's jump right into it. So we're going to review the responses.
Could I ask a question?
Go ahead.
I'm trying to get Stephanie back. I missed who made the motion to approve the agenda and who
Tom.
seconded the motion.
Tom moved,
Okay.
and I think Susan seconded.
I'm sorry to slow you down. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll move on. Review responses to board questions, pages 3 to 20. Are there any comments in regards to the comments that were added?
Susan has her hand raised.
Go ahead, Susan.
Thanks. I was really pleased with the thoroughness of the responses, and many of the questions that I previously had were answered quite well by the responses. So I appreciate the fact that we were able to get these out quickly and back quickly.
Yeah, that was, and especially with the social emotional head start.
Yes, it was very helpful.
Quite extensive. Nicole? Does Nicole have a hand up or something?
No,
Oh, okay.
Can I ask?
Julian does.
Last time you pointed out that there was a place where I could electronically raise my hand, but I don't know where it is now.
So it's under, when you click on participants, it's under there and it says invite, mute me, and raise hand. So click on participants on the bottom.
Yeah. Oh, I see it. Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other comments about the responses to any of the questions that were raised?
There are no hands raised, Joe,
Okay.
unless someone interrupt. No.
So no hands? Oh, well, then we'll move on to the funding recommendations, which is the one that will take time. And that's on pages 21 to 46.
Joe?
Yes.
Is it, so you all may have questions for us, and I know that Mark and I at least have some questions for the board after you have a chance to discuss this, but I wanted to tell you about 2 mistakes. Can
Okay. Yeah, I saw what you sent me. Go ahead.
I'm going to share my screen so that you can see. I'm trying to fix the mistakes. Let's see if this is helpful. So very early on, and so this is a draft for next week's memo. At the very beginning, I had the wrong year. I had PY20 funding. So gotta fix that because you already decided about last year.
Yes.
And then going down, I think this is in your board packet. This appears on page 33, I think. It's very confusing the way that I presented the mixture of the multi-year contract amounts and the proposed amounts. In your board packet, you see the amount which were proposed, which is $439,490 for the first priority area. But what is recommended in this memo is actually a different amount. It's $398,725. So that is very confusing, and I'm really sorry to have done it that way. I can't explain my logic, but we will fix that in the coming memo too.
Okay.
And then the other mistake is down here under the first application in the innovative practices section. I had given you the wrong amount. I was under by 1,533 from what I meant to recommend. So that changes several different numbers. But anyway, I just wanted to let you all know that before you get started. And now I'll stop talking and I'll stop sharing the screen.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for, as you mentioned that to me, and I've seen some of it. Okay. So
Susan has her hand raised.
go ahead, Susan.
Thanks, Joe. Just a clarification. So this is a study session, and we're studying the recommendations from the staff based on our discussion over the past several weeks. But I assume that the vote is actually occurring at the regular session next week.
That's usually is the way it runs, isn't it?
Okay, it is. I was just confused because we had copies of the decision memos. And I just wanted to clarify whether we were making final decisions today or rather discussing what the recommendations are. And Lynn is shaking her head, so it looks like we're discussing.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Yeah,
at the top of the decision section, there's just a little in italics that these will be presented to you on the 20th, which
Okay.
is next week.
Thank
But
you.
but this is an opportunity for us to get a better understanding of what you think about these recommendations, and if there are things that we can change that make your final decisions smoother, we'd like that kind of feedback. But this is your study session to discuss any of this or the applications.
Mhm.
Okay.
Um,
Elaine, is that a question?
Yeah, it is.
Go
Just
ahead.
something because it goes across 3 or 4 of them, just to clarify for me. There are 4 that we're funding 100%. And that's 2 of the, for Cunningham, the housing and employment and the parenting model, those 2 for Cunningham,
Mhm.
and NAMI and the Head Start Early Childhood. And I just wanted to know, since we always say, funding, agencies should seek extra funding. If some of these are contracted by us to completely fund them always or not. I wouldn't think NAMI would be, but maybe the Cunningham ones. Could somebody explain that? Because we're funding those for 100%, and we're not looking
No, we're not.
at.
I don't think so.
I
No.
thought we were.
No.
Well,
No.
I underlined it.
NAMI's at 10,000, not 35,000.
No. I mean, we are providing all of the money.
Oh, 100% of the funding.
Of the funding, and we're
Got
not
it.
looking at like Cunningham's whole budget or Head Start's whole budget. So my question is, are some of these kind of like a subcontract that we do all of the funding always for or not? Does that make sense?
Well, I don't think it would all, I mean, maybe I just don't think there is always and always. So if you understand what I'm trying to get to.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, Cunningham's programs, at least, are relatively new programs.
Mhm.
And I mean, the parenting program is taken over from Love and the other program. So
Yeah.
I think it's an evolution. And I know Cunningham is still trying to get other fundings and other ways in which they can improve and keep working with the community at large.
On these,
Yes,
that's
on these
what I
particular-
didn't know.
yes.
Since we weren't looking at the whole Cunningham budgets, I thought, oh, wait, are we just, like we used to kind of for PLL do everything? And then
No,
the
I don't.
Head Start Early Childhood also, we're not going to always fund that at 100%.
I do not.
Just is now.
Anybody have, I mean, I do not think so. I think it's, at least for this year, yes, we will. But next year, it's up for conversation also.
Julian has his hand raised.
Hey, Julian, go
So
ahead.
the way the questions being discussed, to me at least, is a little bit confusing. So
Okay.
I'm going to say what I think. For a large organization, we're never going to deal with, it's going to look different than when we're funding a smaller organization. So
Yes.
Cunningham, for example, is a large organization, has a huge budget relative to some of the smaller organizations that we fund. So we may be funding 100% of a program within one of those organizations. Sometimes we're only funding a part of it, but it's likely that we would fund a small program within a larger institution. Will look different than if it's a small organization. So I don't quite know how to discuss it across the board.
Yeah.
Well, it's just those four. It's really not across the board, you know, completely. But since there wasn't conversation, a lot of them we have built into what we've looked at before, some mention of this should seek other funding, you know, and I just noticed for those that didn't seem to be as present, and I was just checking for clarification that there wasn't some special. Lynn?
Lynn has her hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Lynn.
So I think that's a really interesting observation. I hadn't thought about that. The NAMI is new, Cunningham programs are new to us. So all that you've said makes a lot of sense. The Head Start one, that is a project which has been funded either by the DDB or with Mental Health Board DD dollars for all of the years that it's existed. It's a really small part of a gigantic Head Start budget. But I think it's quite reasonable to add some kind of provision like that to that project, like that, you know, this is a valuable service. Maybe other funders would be interested in supporting it too. Is that the kind of thing you're looking for?
Well, yeah, but that's the one actually that made me look at all the 100% ones, because I thought, well, wait a minute, we always seem to have funded all of that. And when I was on the DD board, and then I thought, well, are there exceptions that I didn't know about? So thank you very much.
Okay.
Julian has his hand raised.
Okay, go ahead, Julian.
Okay, I guess I'm just continuing to be a little unclear about what we're trying to discuss, but the Head Start example to me would be, because there's all kinds of things that Head Start does and pays for. We're clearly not funding 100% of the Head Start activities. We're funding this social emotional program. And I was not clear when I first read it. I'm still not sure that I actually understand the answer, but I thought I'd wait till we discussed it. So now we're discussing it. Why is there two parts to it? Why isn't it all one thing? I mean, I understand there are two different activities. Are they really separate programs? That's confusing to me, if that's what we're talking about now.
Lynn has her hand raised, Joe.
Go ahead, Lynn.
You know, I think this is our fault. Not your fault as a board, but our fault, because as staff, because historically we've wanted to keep the distinction between DD dollars and mental health substance use dollars very clear, so that because there's this intergovernmental agreement with a really specific amount of money identified in it. So in respect of the agreement between the two boards, we've wanted the agencies to tell us DD versus mental health substance use. And in this particular service, as you see, it's kind of hard for them to do that anyway. So I think it's been an effort on their part to accommodate our need to have these separate buckets. So might be, there might be other ways to solve this that have more to do with me.
No, not necessarily you, because I think, we keep trying to differentiate mental health from health. It's all health. And I think if we can look at it as health and education as one piece rather than trying to split hairs, then I think the fundings can go a long way.
Well,
Joe, Julian has his hand, and then Susan had her hand raised.
Okay, Julian, then Susan.
Okay, so it would make sense to me, if I'm following what Lynn said, to say, we have this program, and because it has both mental health board and DD board services, we want to share the cost. So here's how we share the cost, and here's how we divide the source of funds budget, but it's one program. That's at least what it seems like to me.
Okay, I can see that. I would have no problem with that personally. Susan?
In the response that Head Start provided, the final comment was, it would make sense to make these one program. So I think that the applicant has already agreed that in future applications, it could be one program and then we wouldn't have this confusion.
Would next year. We'll have it again.
Well, yeah, I mean, but they offered to put it together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, and that's, I mean, I think it makes sense for it to be put together because it's doing a lot of the work that we hope is done, mental health and developmental disabilities. Okay. Are we done with that particular one?
Susan, your hand was.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me take it down.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, so do we just want to go one by one? Is that what you'd like to just go one after the other and discuss each one?
You know, Joe, it might make sense to go one by one, but ask if there are any questions or concerns with the recommendation because we've already discussed them.
Okay.
So the discussion now would be more directed towards the funding,
Okay.
or the amount of funding. And maybe it would help once again if Lynn just prefaced how much the funding requests exceed the money available.
Okay.
As a total.
Okay. Lynn, are you willing to help us out with that?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
So you know, budgeting is an art.
Bless you.
So from, you know, each year I learned the hard way that the projections just change and change and change. This is the first year we've ever had a pandemic while we're trying to budget. So at this point, I'm just behaving as if there's no pandemic for the purpose of budgeting and taking the projections that the county gave me. My first pass-through budget, which you haven't even approved a draft budget for next year. So I tried to make the most affordable scenario that I could. It fell short by $283,000. And it was even like a round number like that. So I started with a target that was $283,000 less than what's available. But when going through the recommendations and listening to your observations during the 2 meetings where you talked about each program, I thought, you know, that they wanted us to fund a little bit more than that. So right now, this set of recommendations goes over my target by about $70,000. But each year that we've done this, I find that I've budgeted too conservatively, or we have excess revenue come back, or the county projections were too conservative to start with. So I think it's okay to do that. So I left the target identified in this D memo, you can see it, but also that the recommendations are a little bit higher than that target anyway. And there are a couple of ways that might balance itself out. There are some weird things in the recommendations that I think Mark and I want to ask you about. I stuck very, very closely with the team. There were a lot of ideas, especially from Mark, about how to do this. And I stuck very closely with his principles for this. So as we go through them, I think he and I both want to ask you a few things about these scenarios.
Okay. So do you think because of the COVID and because of the loss of employment, it would affect the budget in the foreseeable future?
Yes.
So are you considering adjustments down the road for that too?
Yes.
Okay.
I think what I decided to do was present you with a scenario that starts with hope and support, and then allows for some flexibility during the contract year as the agencies and the people they serve discover better ways to get their needs met under the new circumstances, because we don't even know how quickly the circumstances are going to change, but those people engaged in the services may discover what works best. And then I think we will want to bring you changes during the contract year to consider, that will work better for the agencies and the people. And then this other, like the looming, scary adjustments have to do with, there's no doubt that the state budget is going to fall.
Yes.
Our property tax collection probably won't fall that much. So this fund will probably be pretty stable this year. I don't know what to expect next year, but, and that's that anything could happen. So we have, as always, into the contracts, we would like to have a provision that allows for contract reductions if our fund falls short of the projection here. And we have only had to use that once that I know of, and that was in 2008 or 9 with the economic downturn. Then the DD board fund fell very short of the projection, and all of those contracts were reduced by a percentage amount. So that language is in the contracts every year, but we haven't had to do it for a long time. So
Okay.
fingers
Okay.
crossed.
Everything crossed. Okay. So go ahead and start us out and we'll talk about each one. You want to read it out or just present like criminal justice, behavioral? Yes, please.
Okay, me? Okay.
Yes, you. Yes, you.
Okay, so the first priority category is behavioral health supports which reduce incarceration. So the total that I'm recommending you fund is just under 400,000. And basically there are two of the requests would continue at the current level, but for different reasons. The Rosecrans request was for the current level. The Champaign County Healthcare Consumers request was for a little bit more, and they did a good job of justifying what the increase was for. But the principle we're using here is that any contract which is new to you this year would stay at this year's level until we have an opportunity to see a financial review or audit, whichever thing is due, in order to understand if everything was done correctly. So so that this is the first one of those contracts. Julian has his hand raised.
Okay, Julian.
So this is one thing that I wanted to follow. What I was going to start by saying is, so was the justification for the increase not persuasive to you?
No, it was good.
It was persuasive. Okay.
It was persuasive, but it's the reason not to do it is just because it's a new agency to us. So we would like to see the
sure. This is a new agency. Healthcare Consumers is a new agency to us. Haven't we been funding them?
Through a subcontract.
Yeah, so.
Right, so we've never seen an audit of their work.
So what happened, if I understood their justification, a fair piece of it was that they made a miscalculation in the amount of effort and time that they're putting into these programs. And it seemed to me that that's not just unfortunate, but I'm pretty sympathetic to the concern. And I'm recognizing what I'm saying, noticing here is Healthcare Consumers is a relatively small organization. They operate in many ways on a shoestring. And they have a huge footprint in this community.
Yes.
I would like us to be a little more sympathetic to their needs. And so it's troubling to me that unless there was something doubtful about the justification that was made, which wasn't to me, but I wasn't sure. But so what I'm saying is, I'd like us to reconsider that for them specifically, not the principle that you're trying to get across.
Mark has his hand raised, Joe.
Okay, go ahead, Mark.
I guess I will play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
If you look back at the program summary, you'll see some observations that were made in terms of how the agents, in comparing what the agency's budget looks like for 2021 in their proposal versus last year, that the percentage of mental health board funding significantly increases for 2021 over into this particular program, and it actually applies to their other proposal as well, over what the percentage that was provided, the percentage of funding provided to by the board in relation to the total program expense increases significantly for the board from 2020 to 2021. So what that represents is a decrease in other funds committed to these programs, with the difference being an increase made by the board. They also have, now there's some shifts in funding coming into the agency overall, but they also, they have new funding from Carl, $100 and some odd thousand, that is for this type of work, but only 3% or 2% of that total contract is allocated to these services. So in terms of the financial commitment of the board, that increases while other resources are no longer allocated to the program. Then you also have, for this particular program, yes, we have a history of subcontracting with the agency through Rosecrans. No, we have not seen an audit from the agency or any financial accounting. I don't know that there would be a problem, but they were a new agency directly contracted with the board. We're not proposing increases to other agencies. So they fall into that same group. When we were subcontracting with the agency in the past, the amount for 5 to 6 years was roughly $50,000 each of those years. We entered into a contract with them for a slightly larger amount last year, and now this year they come back with, instead of being $54,000, they request $75,000. So, you know, there's also, as Lynn explained, a question of the amount of funds available.
Julian has his hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Julian.
I want to follow up here because I think you and Lynn are saying different things.
Okay.
That's why I started with the question, did you not find their explanation of the need for an increase convincing? Lynn said, no, she thought it was convincing, and you're saying, no, it's not. So you guys—
I don't agree on a lot of stuff.
Which is fine with me. I just want to understand what's at issue here.
What you're seeing is internal discussion being made public. We have limited available funds. We have to make some hard decisions. This is the recommendation that's been put forward. If the board thinks that a change should be made, that's the purpose of this meeting.
Yes, I think it's a conversation that we will always be part of, and we'll always continue having. I mean, does that clarify anything for you, Julian?
Well, I mean, it's okay with me that this conversation that was internal is now public.
External, yes.
That's fine. I guess my feeling is I'd like to hear us talk about other possible ways that we could save what are they would be asking for between the two programs about $40,000 approximately.
Yeah.
I have that exact number between the two programs that they're doing. And so what I'm suggesting is they're a small organization. They do a lot of good work in this community. That's not an insignificant amount of money, but it's also not an overwhelming amount of money. So I guess what I'm wondering is if there are not other places in our available funds where we could, if it's a matter of how much total funds we have, then we should look at the total picture and see what we could do about it. But if it's a more, it doesn't, anyway, my point is, I think we're not I would like to see us supporting them because they're a local community organization that does that, and they do good work, and they're small. And if we hold back $40,000 from their request, the impact on them is considerably larger than some of the larger programs that we're funding that are a part of a larger organization. In some ways, it's more trivial for some of those larger organizations. So I just want to have that conversation and see where it goes. I'm not rigid about it. I just want to understand what decision we're making. So maybe other board members have things that they want.
That's what I'm going to ask. I mean, does anyone have anything to add to the conversation about this particular issue?
Susan has her hand raised.
Go ahead, Susan.
Sorry, I had to unmute. Well, I thought that it was appropriate to move forward with some reduction. And of course, the amount of reduction can always be debated, but I was concerned that the choice of how funds from a $110,000 grant received from Carl were used and how that related to the funds for the Champaign County healthcare consumers. So Champaign County healthcare consumers have received some additional funds through Carl. They've been doing good work, no question. It's very important to have their services, particularly the services that they provide in the jail. But I'm wondering how well they are leveraging other grant funds that they have. And I'm also wondering, and which is something that we promote, I also am wondering why our share of the total program revenue went from 57% to 91%. So perhaps what I am curious about is why weren't there some savings with the other grant that they received? And maybe that's being fairly intrusive, since I don't know exactly what the other grant was for or about. But we do encourage leveraging resources. They seem to have leveraged and gotten more money, and then they've come back and asked for yet more money.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments in regards to this?
There are no hand raised, Joe.
Okay. Okay. Should we go ahead and table this and move on to the next item?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go.
So if you do, I think that it becomes relevant again later. So you
Yeah.
may have more thoughts about it as we go through.
Yeah.
I do want to mention that within this priority category, there's also a recommendation. There were 2 new programs proposed this year. And after a lot of discussion, I really felt that both of the programs had a lot of value. So I wanted to recommend some funding for both. The other one is later, and that's the new races program. But First Follower's proposal actually included a very large surplus revenue. So rather than recommend full funding for this proposal, I recommended an adjustment by requiring them to use that surplus to make up the difference. So this is, it's not necessarily affordable to them. The other strategy they could use is to ask to redirect some funding from the current contract to make up for the shortfall here. So that's because it's a new program and it's not a recommendation for full funding of it, that's one that might be sort of tricky.
Okay. using money that you have left over is a good idea.
I mean, the current contract is primarily funding the drop-in center, which was really vital for a while, but it's not open right now. So
Yeah.
it's maybe appropriate for them to, we haven't had that discussion. You all are first. So,
Yeah.
anyway. So are you ready for the next category?
Yes. I mean, if there are no comments in regards to this or questions.
Tom has a question.
Go ahead, Tom.
Well, I guess what I'm thinking is possibly we ought to go through this, because I wouldn't be surprised if each of us have a concern like Julian does about a particular program. And let's see, get a sense of what we're talking about in terms of increasing and decreasing, and see what would be possible in the long run. But I'm not sure that I want to see us adjust every program as we go along, and then not really know what we have when this is all over with. So I guess I'd like to see us just wander through whatever our questions might be, and then figure out at the end how to adjust it.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. That works.
So before we leave behavioral health priority area, I do want to mention, here's the first staff question for you all. There are 10 programs in here that we would like to offer 2-year terms. And we think, we need to be very explicit and ask you what you think about that. Right now, there are 20 contracts which are on a 2-year term. You approved them last year, and then in like maybe December or November, you approved extending the term. So they didn't reapply this year. That's why we have a lighter load to consider. So against that 20, we have identified 10 here that we thought would be stable enough to recommend a 2-year term, or to offer a 2-year term to the agency. So one of them is right here, and that is the Rosecrans contract. So as we go through, you might notice where they are. So if you're comfortable with doing more multi-year contracting, we thought that was probably pretty helpful for the agencies too.
Yeah, I mean, it lends to more stability.
So are you ready for the next category now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. This is
John has a question, Joe.
Okay. Oh, go ahead, John.
Just a quick clarification. So if it's a 2-year contract, then how do we know how much the next year is getting? Like how much are they getting for the following year?
Same amount.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
They do have to update the application forms, but they don't have to, they can do it in June, and it's a lot of that can be copied and pasted, so it's a little bit easier. Actually, I haven't asked them if it's actually easier. We assume it's easier. So.
And I think probably for small agencies, it makes a big difference.
So the next category is innovative practices and access to behavioral health. And this is, in this category, where there are a bunch of contracts here, none are new. Everything is continuing. It's roughly similar to current year. So there are a couple more of those 2-year term ones, but my biggest question to you in this set, here's one of the mistakes I made, where I meant to recommend the current year amount for that homeless services, because that's a new contract, and I got the amount wrong. So I apologize for that. It's $1,500 more. Okay. And then going through, there are 2 contracts in here where, because we're not caught up yet with the audit, we don't have an audit from the previous year. So I wasn't comfortable making a recommendation, but if you want us to, we can change from deferring. They're marked as defer a decision for the 2 Promise Healthcare applications, but you don't have to do that. I can, in the next iteration of the memo, we can move them into a recommendation as you like. And Mark has developed some contract language for dealing with the audit issues. So
let's, Mark, would you like to share with us some of the language for that?
Well, again, internal conversations. We've had a number of internal meetings and conversations with Promise Healthcare about the status of their audit. Some of that has been publicly disclosed, for example, in the COVID information that was shared last month. Part of the response from Promise Healthcare spoke to the status of their audit. Nancy Greenwald has also, I think last November and maybe since then, come to the board and talked about the financial health of the organization, the success they've had in leveraging funds, in getting new awards specific to mental health services, but at the same time, on the administrative side, struggling to manage the administrative operations of the agency. That they've been very successful on the program side and have enjoyed significant growth, but the administrative side has not kept pace with that programmatic growth. So that has led to a situation where they have not been able to get their audit completed, and they are quite far behind in producing an audit for us. So a number of different options have been considered, one of which is to defer consideration of the contracts. Another would be, which is an option, I guess, that I've kind of put some thought into, is to extend their current 2020 contracts for another year, make it a multi-year contract. Their 2020 payments have been on hold since I think last October or November. So they haven't been paid. They continue to deliver services, but until they produce their audit, those payments would not be released. So we would extend the current contract for another year, but stipulate that until the 2018 audit, calendar year audit, is produced, they would not be paid under their current contract for 2020, and that the 2021 contract payments would not start until they've produced both the 2018 and the 2019 audit. That keeps their audits and their contracts in force, but in order to be paid, they have to deliver on the audits. They are, in my opinion, a central, a key provider in this community for mental health, primary care, and the mental health services. I don't believe at the moment are providing substance use services, but they're providing and expanding mental health counseling, and they also are providing psychiatry. They are a central, at the center, along with Rosecrans now, of the behavioral health system in this community, and that I think we need to do what we can to be sure that that agency has the resources it needs in order to meet the needs of the community. And so that is part of my thinking behind the recommended level of funding, as well as how we manage the situation with their audits. I think that's that.
Okay. Anyone have anything to add to what Mark just explained about, especially Promise and how?
Julian has his hand raised, and
Okay.
Susan.
Go ahead, Julian, then Susan.
Okay, so just to be clear about this, I have no concerns about what Mark said about the importance of Promise Healthcare program. but I do want to notice that what they're asking for here is, if I'm understanding this correctly, an increase of $100,000.
Mhm.
And I'll put that aside for a minute and point out that the Rosecrans program that we just talked about, or didn't talk about, but we went over, the Rosecrans program for criminal justice, PSC. In that case, we are funding 68% of that program, as it's, if I understand this correctly. So I'm having a little trouble understanding how 84% might be a problem for the outreach and benefit program from the healthcare consumers, but 68% is not a problem for a large organization like Rosecrans. And in real dollars, $100,000 is a lot more than $40,000. So
In what I would say,
logic of how we're allocating these funds.
and what I
Go
would
ahead,
say to
Mark.
that, Julian, is look at the total amount of funding that the Mental Health Board is providing Promise Healthcare for that program. And the percentage is identical to what it was last year. So even though they would be getting an increase in funding, our overall percentage of what our funding represents for the total program budget remains the same. So they have essentially, they're in part being rewarded for having leveraged additional resources.
Well, okay. It sounds to me, it just sounded to me like, on the other hand, healthcare consumers was being punished for raising additional resources.
Oh,
They're not being
Some money.
they're not
Okay.
being punished, Julian.
Follow the logic, that's all.
They're getting the same amount they got last year. You know, I don't see how that's being punished.
and I think Promise is the money is kind of almost like it's being held in escrow, say, until we have their audit in, then they could get the money.
Susan had her hand raised, Joe.
Susan, go ahead. Susan?
You're muted.
There, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
Well, I'd like us to be moving forward and not going back to the first proposal, which Julian
Yes.
just took us back to, because we will have an opportunity at the end
Mm-hmm.
to discuss everything. So I also wanted to say, before Julian's hand or discussion went in that direction, is that Promise Healthcare provides services to the poorest in our community who have no access to services without Promise Healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
So there is absolutely no way that we could fail to support Promise Healthcare. The audit is an issue, and I like trying to work with Promise Healthcare so that services can continue. They are a quality federal healthcare agency, so whatever we can do to keep them going, I think is very, very important. And I know that the audit is essential. So I think Mark's recommendation of not deferring, but including wording that will make the audit findings still necessary and contingent for future funding makes sense without holding up their funding.
Okay, so makes good. Thanks, Susan.
Julian
Elaine,
has his hand raised.
let's go with Elaine first, then Julian.
Elaine? Okay.
Elaine?
Just to clarify, if the audit were received tomorrow, would you recommend funding them at the full amount they're asking for, Promise Healthcare? That's what I understand from, okay. Lynn's nodding yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, then Julian.
Okay, I just want to say, so to be clear about it, I am not suggesting that we withhold funding from Promise Healthcare. I agree that they're a great program.
Okay.
What I'm pointing out is the argument about what is apparently a problem for the healthcare consumers, which also serves very poor, that's who they serve.
Mm-hmm.
I don't quite follow the logic of it.
Okay, so we'll come back to it.
At that. I don't want to say another word about it. I just want to be clear. I'm not suggesting that we punish or take anything away from Promise Healthcare.
Okay, so we will come back to it at the end of it. Okay, thank you. Let's move it on. Okay. Yes.
So
Lynn.
there are quite a few applications for you all to consider in this category.
Yes.
So I don't want to leave this category until you feel your thoughts have been included here.
Do you see anything else? Anyone on the board see anything else that really raises a question or a comment?
Susan has her hand raised, Joe.
Go ahead, Susan.
Well, I just wanted to agree with the reduction for Rattle the Stars, the youth suicide prevention. I think that's a really important program. And they asked for a pretty substantial increase in funding, which would essentially add an full-time education coordinator. And just given the current status of the schools in COVID-19, I think being a bit more conservative for the coming year makes sense. So I think Rattle the Stars is important, but I think the request was too much of an increase, particularly when they're not able at this point in time to actually work with the students. So it's just a positive on the board decision, on the decision or recommendation.
Thank you. I know that I'm speaking out of turn. I just wanted to say that Mark spent some time figuring out exactly where to put the increase so that it would cover some of what they wanted, instead of just sort of randomly saying, here's how much money we have, deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was sensitive to what we know is a pretty powerful one-man show.
Yes, it is. Kim does a great job. Any questions or comments about any of the other programs that you see here?
There are no other questions, Joe.
Okay, then we're ready to move on to the next. Thanks.
Hey, Joe, guess what?
What?
I have a comment, or it's a question for you all before
Okay.
we leave this category area. The other healthcare consumers application is in this category.
Okay.
This is another large increase. Before I realized that I had made an error in calculations,
Mm-hmm.
I was proposing to fund this full request, but keep the other one and the PY20 level, because it's a jail-based service and all of our providers have been kicked out of the jail. So I was, I was wondering, like, are some of those services going to have to be transformed a little bit anyway in this new era? But so, and then Mark and I talked about sticking with the logic, the other piece of the logic, which was holding until we have that financial accountability piece, the audit or the review. So I'm sorry to stir up, but I just wanted to let you know that that was another way we were thinking about it at one point, was fully fund this one, don't fully fund the other.
Makes sense. And we really don't know what the next few months will be. So, okay. Let's go. Next.
The next category is system of care for children, youth, and families. And while it does not hold quite as many applications, it's the largest amount of money that we're recommending. I think this is, hopefully, it's a reflection of the board's value on services for the very young and for children and for families, which, may be the most bang for our buck anyway, because they do include prevention. To my knowledge, these organizations really do collaborate well together and in lots of different ways. So they're meeting some of the expectations that the board has previously put out there. So I don't know if you have any specific questions here. This, once again, we were holding with that principle of not increasing anything that's a new contract this year. And then there are a few which are not new contracts, but got a big bump this year. So same principle. Like one example is CUNC, which used to be the Neighborhood Champions. The current year amount is much higher than what they were receiving before, but that's not a new program to you. But it was just, in addition for that one especially, we were thinking that if there's money available from the Coalition Summer Youth Initiatives, which they're right now trying to work out how to do summer programming that's not in person, or that's, can include social distancing. So they're working on that. If they could redirect funding from that to make this program whole, that might be helpful, because the CUNC is still functioning, even in our new, like, mostly telework world.
Mm-hmm.
And then the others, the Cunningham parenting model appears to be an increase, but it's actually, right now we're in the first partial year of funding. So it's really similar to annualizing what you're already doing with them. So that's,
Joe, John had his hand raised.
Oh, okay,
but
go
then
ahead,
he took
John.
it down.
Oh, okay.
Well, I did have one thing.
Go ahead.
To say, for Rosecrans and Promise Healthcare, with this next year, it's going to be difficult to do a lot of in-person treatment for counseling and psychiatric services. Do we know, or did we assess or ask their capabilities for telemedicine, or like just telehealth, or for like their counselors and for their psychiatrists? To see if their funding is going to be adjusted, because then they may not have as many people. I mean, even if they have those capabilities, they may not have their patient population may not have the resources to do that kind of a visit too.
Yeah.
So they may change in their funding need over the next 12 months, for the next 12 months.
so I think that you're speaking to probably the most important change in front of all of us.
Yeah.
And so what I would like for us to prepare for is a season where you are going to be entertaining some requests along those lines. Like maybe the agency's getting $200,000 to provide some counseling services, but the shift in the costs have to do with making sure their clients have computers, like staff time is not as high of demand as like capital. So I don't want to predict anything or write anybody's request, but I'm thinking that we might hear things like that from the agencies, just in exactly the spirit that you mentioned. And even since our last meeting, actually since April, since the time when we presented you with where the agencies were at as they adjusted to the new needs, since then Medicare coverage has changed with regard to telephone only. Now telephone only is billable for everything. At the time it wasn't. It was only billable for the initial consults and certain other services, but now counseling. So we could, and that's a temporary change, but we could see some of those changes in other funding sources having an impact, just exactly like what you're saying, where we need to attend to the digital divide with this money.
Yeah.
Julian has his hand raised, Joe.
Go ahead, Julian.
I just would like to add to that, to the thoughts that we're having about potential changes and what we might be seeing from these agencies. It could be, for various reasons, that they're not quite able to give the same amount of services that they would normally give. But I think we ought to pay attention to how hard it is to get good staff. And so we want to be careful as we accommodate to that and try to be realistic about it. We're not trying to throw money away, but we also need to worry if they have to let staff go, it's going to create havoc we don't know when they'll recover back to normal, but we do know it'll happen at some point. And then it would be nice if they weren't so far out of touch with their staffing needs that, well, you get what I'm saying, is let's be cautious about how we proceed with that. That's all.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah, it is.
Julian, did you have your hand raised again, or was that just from before? Okay.
Okay. Any questions or comments about that? Because definitely not just the resources available to the client population, but to the providers also. I mean, and we're talking about Champaign County. Some of the rural areas in Champaign County do not have the resources, the network resources to have video telemedicine. And so how do we provide those? So those are questions that we will be answering this year. But one of the things that COVID has shown us is that we have a very unbalanced medical healthcare situation. Okay, let's move it on. So
before we leave this priority category, this is the other of the two new applications is here, and that's the RACES program for sexual violence counseling. So a possibility, if you did not want to take on this new program, another possibility would be to ask RACES to use the funding they currently receive, which is sexual violence prevention education, to cover this. That would be a significant redirection of that contract, but just given like the COVID-19 effects are just rolling in, but one of the first ones was domestic violence and sexual violence. So, or maybe what's happening is that people are starting to think about those, what previous events, and now it's a crisis. So the counseling seemed like a good value for, it just seemed very relevant to me. I put that in here at the risk of going over budget. I thought maybe that's the right thing to do. So if you're ready to leave this category. No, okay.
Okay. Let's go on.
So the next is the collaboration with the Developmental Disabilities Board on IDD programs. And last year in your priorities discussion, it became clear that you like having the programs for young children and their families. And so that is how we are presenting to the SILA obligation is ongoing. You've already paid it ahead for a few years by paying off the mortgage early. So there's a big zero there, but I still use the amount of $50,000 when I'm figuring out how much your contribution to DD dollars should be. So the total contribution actually adds that 50,000. That calculation is based on an agreement made a long time ago to follow whatever the levy increase was for the current year. So that was a high levy increase from 2019 to 2020. But then we chop off the 50,000. So SILA is listed even though it's nothing. Then I felt like you all spoke pretty clearly about the early childhood programs at your last study session. So we're recommending full funding for both of them, and using, because your DD dollars don't cover the full amount of them, the DD board will fill in the rest to make these programs whole.
Okay.
And they have the president has agreed to that. We'll see what the full board says. If they disagree, then we might come back to you after the fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you're looking through it, is there a present question or comment that you would like to share?
There are no hands raised in the chat box at this time.
Okay. So it looks like we've come to end of the draft area. So so let's look at we're going to make some draft decisions now.
Well, if you're looking at page 44,
Mm-hmm.
in the middle there's the big total PY21 funding recommended. That amount is wrong because
Mm-hmm.
I had missed $1,533. So,
Okay.
And then if you want me to bring in the decisions which I had proposed to defer, bringing those in, the total recommendation is, I'm gonna get that document back up. The total recommendation then, absent any change related to this conversation that you're having about us maybe rethinking some of them, is I gotta scroll down, is the new total, including all those, would be $3,292,241. And that is greater than what I had targeted, but as I said before, I think we can find a way to live with that. You do have a little bit of fund balance. That would be the worst case scenario, to, you know, ask the county board for permission to use fund balance, but I think it would be reasonable. And the case I've tried to make here is that because there's so much uncertainty in front of us, we have to build in flexibility anyway. So I thought starting strong, that, you know, we might as well, I don't know.
Yeah.
That we might as well. So the difference then between what I had targeted and what I would be recommending is about 61,000. So I'd have to figure out where to find it, but I'm being brave.
Okay.
Susan has her hand raised, Joe.
Okay, go ahead, Susan.
So it's as much a curiosity question. So we are thinking about going 61,000 above what you had originally planned on, which is not a huge increase, but we're in uncertain times. What is our fund balance? How deep is our fund balance?
Maybe Chris knows off the top of his head, but we did just write a big check to Carl Hospital for that part of it. You know, I probably have the numbers in front of me, but it's so awkward to search through papers while you're waiting.
Tell us next week.
Yeah, we got next week.
Next week is fine.
Chris, do you know the fund balance?
No, not off the top of my head, I don't.
We just got balance sheets from the auditor's office last week, and the fund balance is listed there, but it doesn't adjust for the obligations that you have already.
Next week is fine.
Okay, Chris, can you do that for me?
Yep, absolutely, no problem.
We can start working on it tomorrow. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So, you know, there are some other tax liabilities still within that fund balance. There's additional money associated with hospital property tax revenue, so that cannot be spent. But what's happened for the last few years is that I start with the county's initial projections. The lady who's doing that work for the county gives me a conservative projection at first, and then it starts creeping up as she gets better information. And then Chris and I both budget very conservatively. So in the end, we're not closing the year with a deficit. But on top of that, something that I think is more important is that agencies have had trouble finding staff to perform these contracted duties. And as a result, they have sent you money back every year. One year it was a huge amount of money. So we're not just talking about, you know, me being a cheapskate or us not buying as much paper as we probably should. We're talking about a real crisis with the agencies. So money keeps coming back in the form of excess revenue. And I hate to say this in public, but, you know, we also tend to lose an agency every year, at least one. And that's also not good. But given the circumstances, I mean, it's been rough times. So I don't think that 2021 is going to be any better. I do want to say that for 2020, we have some very easy ways to save money that was budgeted, because I'm not going anywhere. There's no more conference travel. I mean, so, you know, there are little things like that which also accumulate and then become fund balance. So I felt that we could afford to be that flexible. Anyway, I'll shut up. Sorry.
Okay.
Jane has her hand raised, Joe.
Okay, go ahead, Jane. We've not heard from you.
I've been pretty quiet, even though I always have a lot of opinions. So this is kind of
Everybody hear her?
We can't hear
No,
you.
can't hear you, Jane.
Now I bet you can. I had my mic up. Sorry about that. Okay. So I haven't really said a whole lot. I've been absorbing a lot of thoughts. So these are kind of random over the night. Obviously, we're dealing with a lot of changing times. And so we don't know what the future holds. But it also makes me question, we have a lot of agencies that we have funded. And if they're not able to see youth at the Boys and Girls Club or at the Muhammad thing, I mean, are they going to be returning money because they really did not fulfill the services that they said they were going to do? So there could be an influx of money there. We don't know, and that's very unfortunate. I guess I've always been kind of cheer for the underdog. I'm actually pretty good at basketball, you know, March Madness. And so I go for the underdog, and I guess I look at some of these agencies, and there's a variety of reasons why, you know, the staff has chosen not to give the requested amount. But sometimes when I look at places like, you know, Rattle the Stars, NAMI, Grow, small things like that, those are small fries. They don't have a lot of big financial backers. They're not getting state and federal funds. And so I guess sometimes I feel like if I had more of a vote in where the money goes, I'd say, let's look at those small fries. And then I'm like, Jane, wake up. You do get to have a vote in this. So it's a hard decision. When you only have so much money in the pot, you got to figure out where it goes. And I guess that is something I'd like for us to collectively think about in the next week or whatever it is. Some of these agencies who are asking for big bucks, do they have other avenues? You know, we talk about, you know, Rattle the Stars. She's pretty much a one-woman show, you know, not to pick on someone like Rosecrans, but they have people who write grants. That's their job, you know. So just some thoughts, opinions, and thank God I live in America and I can share my opinion.
Tom had his hand raised.
Go ahead, Tom. Go ahead, Tom.
Okay. When I think of these proposals that we're addressing, those were all written in a different time. And they were written for a period that we're no longer in. And the ground keeps shifting, and we're in a whole different climate than we were when these were submitted and when the recommendations were made for them. And I'm mindful of the email that Lynn sent to us earlier this week by Mandersheen about the impact of mental health on from this COVID thing. We have some ideas of what that might be, but we don't know exactly what they're going to be. And the idea that we already have people who are in our community from jails that are coming, that have been dismissed, and they're back in our community, and they're going to need certain kinds of services. And then saying that many of our service providers are not in the jails anymore. It seems to me we need to think a little bit differently. Like maybe it is okay to go ahead and give the healthcare consumers an increase because of what might be coming down the line. And I'm afraid that suicide services for teenagers is going to be in high demand. And I guess I would not like to see that not being available for folks. And I think we've come to the end of our recommendations, and it might be time to reconsider what it is for those programs that were raised, and do we want to try to accommodate them in some way. I think we might want to go ahead and do that. I'm okay with taking the money out of our local business, but giving it to people who are going to be doing things directly for these young men and women who are coming back and trying to get settled in our community. Because it's going to be tough on them, because it's going to be tough on people who are here already. And so for them to come back and try to get themselves settled is going to be difficult. And I'd just like to make one comment about Elaine's earlier observation, because I don't think it's so easily dismissed as that there are small programs and big agencies. It seems to me that for years we've thought about, or at least maybe not on this board, we seem to be the funder of choice for a lot of agencies, and they go on year after year after year. And so that has not necessarily disappeared just because it shows up in a different program. And I think that's something to keep in mind, that we end up funding over and over. If you look at our list of people, many of them stay the same. We get new ones and old ones fall out, but we get some that come back every year. And they may be clever enough to say, well, but this is a different program. But I think we need to give that her question a little more thought. But if we want to go ahead and give money to those two programs, that's fine with me. But I think that somewhere next year, they're going to need that money in a different way they hadn't even imagined. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
So there are several hands raised.
Okay.
Julian had his hand raised.
Okay.
Then it was Jane, Susan, and then John.
Okay. Go ahead. And that's in that number. So Julian, Jane, Susan, and John.
I raised my hand initially because I wanted to agree with what Jane said. I thought it was very well put. And then in the course of listening to Tom, I want to agree with what he said as well. And I had a question that, because I don't quite remember how it works. Are the current tax bills that we all just got property tax bills?
Yeah, don't remind me.
Are they the ones that would fund these proposals? Am I looking at the right years?
Do you want the answer now? I can wait.
Well, it's a short, the point of my question simply
It's not a short answer.
Do we know if the tax bills are out and that's the funding that we're going to have, then we kind of know things more certainly. If it's more ambiguous than that, then we don't.
So what you have is, because the agencies are on a year that starts July 1st and ends June 30th, and you're not, this set of recommendations and this funding is based on 2 different tax collection cycles. So right now we have collected nothing for 2020. We've got like no tax revenue at all. So the bills that you got, those are the revenue that we'll see for 2020. The statewide, about 67% of property taxes go into escrow funds. So maybe those are more reliably collected. I don't know that that's true. We don't know what's happening with the other 33%, but in a normal year, you get about 99% of the taxes that are billed for you. So that's just, the other 1% is just not collected.
Okay.
And there are some late fees. So that's just, all that does is pay for the first 6 months of these contracts.
Okay, so what I'm going to hit my last comment about is, so given the uncertainty, I think we should be hesitant about, I know we can change it, but I think we should be more cautious about offering 2-year contracts. Okay. At the moment, I'm a little bit regretting that we already did it, because we're not looking at any of those programs.
Okay.
And we're not, and if we're thinking about maybe reducing funding of, they ought to be in the possible reductions with, except, I'm not saying we should, but I'm saying they're in the pool too. So since we locked ourselves into 2 years,
Susan has two hands up.
that concerns me. Although I know you can renegotiate, that's always in the contract. I
Yes.
understand.
Yes.
It just
Those
becomes,
contracts already have that provision for reduction if there's inadequate funding. But the 2021 funds are what pay for the second half of the year. So we have no idea what's going to happen in 2021.
Yeah. Okay, Jade, I think you're next.
Sorry, actually, I had forgotten to put my hand down, so that was a false hand up.
Okay,
So
John.
proceed on.
John. John?
I thought it was Susan was next, and I was like,
I think it was JJJS.
I thought Susan.
No, actually it was Susan and then John.
Okay. Ooh, JJSJ.
So
Okay.
my turn?
Yes, go ahead, Susan.
Well, I have fought and argued for several years for 2-year funding. I thought that the process of reviewing this year was so much easier and gave us time to look more closely at programs because we didn't have 40.
Yes.
I like the fact that there's the provision to renegotiate in the second year, so that if there are some funding exigencies that we can't imagine right now based on economic collapse, COVID-19, et cetera, the staff can do that. I don't want to go back to reviewing 40 proposals every year. I think it's almost impossible to wrap our heads around. Second, let's be careful about what we're implying about some of our established and larger agencies. They pay for many services through Medicaid and billing, and they come to us to ask for funds for services that they can't bill for. We would not have the crisis access services that are really important in reducing crises and referring and moving people out of severe or even mild crisis to non-crisis. So we've been critical of a couple of our large agencies in the past. I noticed that this year they did not ask for additional funds. The requests for additional funds often came from fairly new agencies, and I think that we have to be somewhat circumspect and conservative about rapid expansion in new agencies until we see the impact that they're having on the community. So I am very concerned about youth suicide, but I don't know that I'm so concerned that I would fund the size of increase that's been requested or a full-time educational counselor when we don't know what we're going to be able to do with the schools. So I'm just going to push back a little bit on the, let's pick out a couple of programs and fund them more because we think they're important. I think we're here to give reactions to the staff, and we're doing that. But I think let's be careful and not assume that because there's preference for a couple of programs by several board members, that means there should be significant changes in how the funding is done. And I would just, maybe I've been on too many Zoom calls today, sorry. I would just raise that as an issue.
You're zoomed out.
Well, you know, it's been about 6 hours on Zoom today, so yeah, probably am.
Okay, thank you.
John is next.
John.
So, just hearing the whole discussion, I can, I jump back and forth on both sides. So, I mean, there's, good points being made. And, one of the things that Jane was saying is just these smaller agencies, as the mental health board, one of the things I want us to do is to make sure that we're helping these smaller agencies grow so they become like the bigger agencies, like Promise Healthcare and Rosecrance someday, so that we have more robust resources that have a big foothold and become pillars of the community. So I don't want us to just say, well, they're getting all their funding from us, and so maybe they shouldn't get as much because they should start looking elsewhere, as opposed to, no, is this an investment for the future so that they will grow into something bigger that will have an exponential benefit. One of the things I'm always trying to think about how to be more frugal. Is there overlapping services that we can help as the mental health board coordinate between these groups so that they can share costs, like counselors or psychiatrists? Like the Champaign County Health Consumers wants part of the funding to go to a part-time psychiatrist, whereas like Promise Healthcare is hiring has three psychiatrists, like the funding supports in part 3 psychiatrists and 2 of 4 counselors. Like, is there some way to then, because it would be cheaper than to hire one part-time counselor or psychiatrist at one place. It would be cheaper to, in my opinion, typically to just have one of those psychiatrists maybe do part-time at that location and maybe have a collaboration. And I'm sure there's other things that overlap in these groups that maybe if one person were to be hired for a certain service, then they can do it, and it would be a smaller cost than for those groups individually as a whole.
I mean, and that's something that I think the board, or at least this community, has tried to do. The interagency collaboration has been something that's been pushed quite readily, and unfortunately, it seems as if people get a little bit territorial about their money and not money. I once worked with an agency that's now defunct, and I understand when funds don't come in, some agencies do die, and small agencies are usually, you get a cold and next thing you know you have pneumonia and you die. And that's what happened with Operation Snowball in this county. And I do not want that to happen with Rattle the Stars or any of the other smaller agencies. And finding ways to make interagency collaboration, you can't mandate it, but you can strongly encourage it. Like NAMI and Rattle the Stars and GROW could probably work on some education together, and that might be ways in which they can support one another. And there are ways, but I mean, I think we're not here to talk about interagency collaboration per se, but we're looking at funding and how we will make sure all our agencies get funded appropriately. Any other comments?
Yeah, Julian had his hand raised, and then Tom.
Okay, Julian.
So I think John's suggestion is something we really should not necessarily resolve at this moment, but talk about, because once you start thinking that way, you can realize things like, oh, the Christian Health Center is banging their head against the wall trying to find a psychiatrist. Well, if Promise has more than one, and it wouldn't take very many hours, actually, of Promise psychiatrist time to help out the Christian Health Center, where they do have mental health issues. There's an example of a very interesting way to encourage collaboration. And the other thing, I just say it again, another way, what I've been saying for a while, the percentage of funds that someone's asking for an increase is not as interesting as the actual dollar amount. So if you look at the some of these small agencies asking for what looks like a gigantic percentage increase, turns out to be sometimes a very small absolute dollar amount. So we should just be careful about how we're understanding that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Tom?
Yes, I wanted to make a point about these small agencies. and particularly in relationship to the large agencies and how they evolve. I remember when I first started on this board that we had very few small agencies. And it was only when we got a SAMHSA grant, well, a little before, we had a bunch of smaller agencies, almost indigenous people saying, hey, I have an idea for a program that I think would be useful. Prior to that, there were not a lot of services that were tailored for minority groups here. And the large agencies aren't prone to do that, no matter what you think. It's small people who have a particular interest who get involved and make sure that those people who are ignored and or underserved get services from us. And I think it's important for us to make sure that we keep them in the mix. And I still can't get out of my head listening to a gentleman the other day from National Institute of Health, not mental health, but health, talk about what the kind of mental health pandemic we're going to have. And two of the things we talked about is he talked about is suicides and domestic abuse. And I just want to keep saying this. I don't want to forget that we're in a whole different climate than we were before we started this process. That's all I want.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Tom. Wow, that's time, and I think we're up against time now.
There are no more questions and no more hands raised.
So
I do have some questions for you.
Go ahead.
Okay, so if we were to increase any of the requests here, but if I wanted to not overspend more than I've already proposed that you overspend, are there things that you would decrease?
Anyone?
Susan has her hand raised.
Go ahead, Susan.
Um,
Go ahead, Susan.
You have your mute button on, Susan.
There we go. Without having a list with the specific dollar amounts laid out across the agencies, it's hard to say, gee, this one seems a little high, or this one isn't high enough. So I don't think I want to answer that question today. I think that's something to think about between this week and next week. You know, quite frankly, we're always in the quandary of there's not enough money to do everything we want to do.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm really hesitant to turn around and say, what can we take money from now?
The reason I ask is that I have to create a new recommendations memo for you overnight in order to get it out to you in time and get it posted. So I'm going to just make some guesses. And we won't be able to include the fund balance information in the memo because that's going to take a couple of days to figure out. But so that'll just be, we'll just talk about that during the meeting. But the fund balance has been, the recommendation has been to have 6 months of your operating costs at any time. And so we may have a little bit more, but I can't really tell how much more I could overspend. The budget that I created for you is already like obsolete. I need to go back in and do a different budget in order to afford this. So I'll just make some guesses. And the other question that I have for you is whether you want to have mid-year reports from anything other than the 2 new programs. Like, are the mid-year reports helpful to you all? Do you want to hear from relatively new programs again?
I think the media reports from Dream House and Rattle the Stars this past year was quite informative.
Okay. So we could, there were 6 this year that they were the Christian Health Center, Champaign County Healthcare Consumers, the RPC Homeless Services, NAMI, and the Recovery Home. And then you would have Cunningham, the parenting, and then the two new, if you do want to fund the two new programs, which are races and first followers. So we can flag them all to have mid-year presentations if you like that.
Julian,
go ahead,
go
Julian.
ahead. Joe.
I don't want to say, and I agree with Susan. I can't just say right now, well, cut this or cut that, but, and I think we should think about it. We should all look at the overall picture.
Okay.
Now and the next time we meet. But just one thought about it. It's possible to think about skimming a little from a lot of the larger ones in order to come up with enough money to cover some of the things that we can't fund without that. Because a little teeny bit from a big place is not going to hurt as much, and it might be a way to get some benefit from the smaller things. So I'm not saying cut everything. I'm not saying they're no good. I'm saying just if you look at the overall numbers and you're trying to come up with a dollar amount, I bet you could look at how you could take a little here, a little there, and so on, and figure it out.
John
Thank
is
you.
next.
Go ahead, John.
Like if you were to take like 1% off the top of everybody else and give to the smaller programs, you'd probably come up with enough money.
Yeah.
I was going to say, this is my first year on the board. When we do have a surplus, the people who we didn't have money for, do they ever then get those funding since we didn't vote on approving that funding? So can we
don't get the excess revenue back in time. It comes very late.
Okay.
So it can only go into the fund balance by the time we get it.
Okay.
I was going to ask like if we could do like a priority where like if there is excess funds that they would get, then they would get approval for that for their request. Because of what we were going to approve initially.
So are you talking about if there are excess funds, then kind of a mini grant in the middle of a year or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. But is that something that we could have a discussion about at a later date?
I built something like that into your funding guidelines and priorities documents. The question is more to you. Do you want to go through this process again, which started in January and ends in June with contract development? So, I mean, that's the problem, is that to do that, you have to have some of the structure already prepared. So we could say, here are the proposals. And so the agency wouldn't have to do that again, but you would have to have a few conversations in order to approve it. So I could do something like that in this set of recommendations.
Well, but the dollar amount would be much smaller though, right? It would be like, what, like $100,000. It'd be a small amount. So I don't feel like it would be a lot of work to just approve a lot of it if we have the funding for it. Because I feel like most of us want to approve the funding for most of these programs if there is the resources for it. Just we don't have the allocated funds at this time of planning that we are going to have that based on the projection.
So you say you want to approve it now, and then it would just go into effect later when we identify the money.
I mean, that's if other people agree to that, I would
something like that.
So that requires, I mean, we could certainly do that. The agencies we might not know how much extra money there is until December. So the agencies would lose the first few months. So, you know, it's kind of like, we've never had a contract discussion like that with an agency before, but we could certainly try that. So now I would sort of need to identify which things we're not going to fund until we have more money. So maybe the two new programs.
Well, I mean, can you say we did everything based on the recommendations here, correct? So we partially funded some of the program, like some of that program for like the Muhammad, for example. But then later in the year, like we gave him 18,000. Well, then later in the year we had excess funds, so then we give him the rest of the $40,513, whatever that difference is. Because from again, this is my first year. It seems like this year is going to be very different, and I don't know of all these programs who is going to be able to accomplish or hire all that they need. So I feel like we probably will have some people return the money because they can't accomplish the goals, unfortunately. Meaning that we probably will have more excess funds because of that, which is really unfortunate, but something that I'm just trying to think about like the next 12 months, and so I think looking back, if we fast forward 12 months from now, if we look back, we're like, oh yeah, that would be obvious that this is going to happen, that a lot of these groups are not going to be able to do everything that they said they wanted to do, and so we should have just approved everything. I don't know, that's just my thought if I was just thinking.
So I think that I understand what you're proposing, and I feel like that's right, and it's right on track, but what's happening is that the way we do these contracts, they're grants, so the agencies get paid first. So next June is the last time they get a check on these contracts, next June, and then they would not return us any excess revenue until December at the earliest, or maybe November of 2021. So what I'm telling you right now about using some of the fund balance is equivalent to what you're proposing. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, you have money now from last year. Yeah.
Okay.
So you're saying the same thing that I'm saying. It's just that I'm not sure how much farther we could go than what I propose to overspend here.
Okay.
The hospital property tax case is not the only part of it, but that's a big part of it. And there's some of the funds that we have in the fund balance are for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Tom had his hand raised, and then Susan.
Tom, then Susan, and we'll try to wrap it up. Okay.
I think I'd want to be careful about doing some mid-year distribution of money, because I don't want to. I actually don't want to have a thin fund balance. I don't think that's wise for us. So if we do get money back, my preference would be, let's hold on to it, and then the next year maybe that can get thrown in the mix next year. But I don't think I don't want to do something in the mid-year about that. And I could just let it sit, put it in our whatever our savings account is.
Yeah, and this might not be the year to start that either. So Susan.
Exactly. Tom said it better than I could have. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Well,
so
Elaine had her hand raised.
Oh, okay, Elaine.
Well, I just want to add to that. I've been part of a small agency that had a very nice fund balance and began to give little grants to other groups that needed it. And we ruined ourselves. We absolutely ruined ourselves, because then hard times came, which we hadn't anticipated. And our fund balance was gone because we had been so generous. So, this is, in a way, I'm comparing apples and oranges, but that kind of thing can happen.
Okay.
I'd be worried about deciding to get rid of the fund balance at mid-year and all these things.
Yeah. And like I said, it's a different year. We maybe did not discuss it this year. We just let's see what happens. Let's go to, any agency input, or do we just move to adjourn?
We need a motion.
Need a motion?
I move that we adjourn.
Well, do you want to have agency input since it's on the agenda?
Okay, let's just quickly throw it out there. Agency input, going once, going twice.
There's no one who would.
Okay. Okay, any board announcements? Okay. Tom moves to adjourn. Any seconds?
Everybody.
Okay. Okay, we adjourn. Have a wonderful evening. It's been good. We'll meet again next week.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Good discussions.
Yes, I think I'll fix my Zoom now. Okay.
Thanks.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi,
I'm
Joe.
still here. I think we're just the two left. Oh,
But we're still recording.
wow.
I
I'm
thought that was
tired.
a great meeting.
Yes, it
Maybe,
was.
if you have time in the morning, maybe we
Mhm.
can talk?
My schedule is a little bit full. Let me quickly take a look. Hold on.
Okay.
Oh, do you see me? Oh, no, this is, oh, that's my, I think, huh. Am I still on with you?
Yes.
Huh.
You know what? I could just email you a draft of what I come up with. Because
Okay.
I'm going to work on it now.
Okay.
Because we have to turn around this board packet as soon as possible. So
I know that's,
it's for you all, but it's also for the public. It has to be posted a few days in advance. So.
okay. Yeah, I know tomorrow. Let me just quickly check it here, see what I have tomorrow. So 8, 9. So tomorrow I have 1 p.m., 8 a.m. I know you're an early riser, Ken. You also have 8 a.m. and I think my 9 a.m. canceled, so I am good there.
Okay. Well, let's try to talk early.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I'll try to fix this Zoom thing.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Makes for a long day.
Yes. Thank you, though.
Oh, no problem. You have a
Good
good
meeting.
night. Yes, take care. Bye-bye.